Hello. We are live for the second community conversation of the year. Last year I was able to fit 3 in. This year has been 2 because life has been lifing. But I'm glad to be here before I go on my December sabbatical from Instagram and most of social media. But I will still be over on Substack. I love Substack. If you haven't been on Substack yet, I highly recommend it. It's the main reason we are here today to discuss the topic that being single is expensive and what that means, and some other topics around the single life, dating. Do we want to date anymore? What society defines singleness as, and then why is it important to desire partnership or marriage? Is that even what we want anymore? So I'm really excited for tonight's conversation. I'm going to give it less than a minute before we bring our special guest on tonight, Nyasha, and we will hear where she's located in the world and where and how dating is impacting her in her stage of life. So thank you all for coming in. I'm excited about this conversation as well because we're going to open the floor up to some listeners toward the end. We're going to be speaking around 20 minutes. And then the last 10 or so minutes, we'll open the floor up to have some true community conversation. Like, we want to invite you, the listeners, on. You don't have to show your face. You can just, turn the camera down and speak. But if you're able to come on camera, that would be great. Like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about why being single is expensive. What does that mean? We'll be discussing some of the Substack articles that Nyasha and I wrote, and just our experience being single in our 20s and 30s, and just what the future may look like. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our special guest on. Let me bring Nyasha on. Let's see. Let's see. I think it's moderator. How do I... Oh, here we are. Invite. I just invited our special guest on. Ah!
Hello.
Hey!
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's so funny to me, just the time zone difference. I'm like, it's a Saturday, nearly afternoon right now. But yeah, how are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you for being open and willing to speak with me today. I do want to say for your listeners that I am not in Chicago, even though I have on a Chicago pullover. I am in Baltimore, Maryland. But we're just so happy to have you on. I would love for you to first introduce yourself before we get into the conversation.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Nyasha. I live in Melbourne, Australia. So a long, long, long time or zone away from you or your followers. I am 27. I currently work as a case manager. And I guess I've just been like, you know, doing this thing we called life recently. And I started, sharing my journaling, and that expanded to essays on Substack, and which has led to us meeting. So I feel like it's a little bit cathartic, just the way that the internet can work, and being on the good side of the internet. But yeah, that's essentially about me. We'll obviously talk more about my journey, about my experiences dating and, love. It's just been, yeah, it's been an interesting experience. It actually, I guess, motivated me to write more about what I was experiencing, and really tackling on issues that I wasn't aware of, or my attitudes around dating. And it was a really good way for me to actually analyze and internalize some of those experiences and how they affected me as a Black woman, moving around in this society. But yeah,
And that's why we're here. I'm so
and
glad.
that's why we're
That's why we're
here.
here. And I'm so glad that you began writing on Substack. Um, I actually saw you on, oh, I have an echo. I don't know if something shifted. Did anything shift on your side?
I hope not.
Okay. Hopefully, I think it went away. Um, I usually use my like an AirPod, but I forgot to put it in.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully everyone can hear me well. But yeah, so I actually saw you on TikTok first. That is the algorithm that recommended your piece, The Price of Being Wanted. So I wanted to start there around what inspired that piece and what it's about. Tell the listeners what that piece is about.
Yeah, so at the beginning of this year, I was dating someone, and it was like a serious relationship to me, anyways. It was one of those where I felt like someone where that I actually wanted, and it felt reciprocal. Um, However, I felt that during I guess, the end of this relationship, that maybe that I had been overlooking certain things about this person, or not necessarily this person, about the relationship that I thought was healthy. So what actually happened was that I realized that, oh my gosh, I keep wanting just the bare minimum in people, and really chasing that validation and that desire of being chosen as well. So that experience, I was obviously shattered. Like, we broke up. We're actually kind of good friends at this point in stage. Um, it's just one of those situations where it wasn't meant for me, and I really invested a lot of time and a lot of effort and energy with this person, and likewise. So when it broke off, I kind of knew that it was kind of about to happen, just because you start to see that the effort that was once there is no longer being reciprocated. And you're waiting on this person to respond. You're trying to confirm if you're going to see each other, or like book the dates that you usually book or communicate with this person around. And I guess, as I started to notice the energy shifted, I started freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, like, surely not. Like, I really thought like 6 months ago that, this person was like my person. So I guess once that experience happened, I was seeing my therapist. I was really just trying to kind of internalize why I kept going into the same cycles, patterns of relationships where I am so infatuated by them at the beginning, thinking that they're the most amazing person, that I overlook shadows or red flags about the relationship, and just, I guess, be very delusional about where I stand in that relationship. And from that, it actually brought up a lot of internal experiences that I also had and that have been reinforced in my society and our society as women, where your worth is determined about how many kids you have, the husband that you also acquire. We have this sort of prized possession of having the man of our dreams as like a trophy, and if you don't, then you're either doing something that not okay in society, or something's wrong with you. And we really reinforce this sort of like, it is the women's fault, it is the women's fault. So like, I am from a Zimbabwean background, so a lot of like African cultures definitely prioritize having just marriage as a big, I guess, winning certificate in your life. Especially with African cultures, we tend to have um, bride price, which I'm not sure if you may be aware of, but essentially is when you have when your parents have children, if they have a boy, he essentially is not as of a prized possession. And as women, if you have a girl child, you're seen as her virginity or her being is going to um, be monetized in a way, or they essentially really prioritize the fact that we need to get the girl married off,
Mm-hmm.
because they pay, the guy would then pay cows or like money. And we're very like forced to believe that our worth is going to be when we eventually decide to find that person, decide to marry this person. So then finally our parents could be happy and have, you know, reinforce these social constructs that we have in our culture. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess from that point of view, I was really trying to dismantle this like idea and this internal conflict about the reasonings that I choose people only, or focus on men, or my desire to be also wanted has
Mm-hmm.
always been through those social constructs around what it is being a woman, and how ourselves are presented in society. So essentially, that's when I wrote the desire to be, the price to be chosen, because I was just really trying to internalize and really
Mm-hmm.
communicate how I've always been feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's how it led to it being written.
Okay. And so what I want to do now, I want us to just like throw out like what is the price of being chosen, right? Or the price of being wanted or chosen. Like it might be some things you mentioned in your piece on Substack, or just
Mm-hmm.
maybe some things that come to mind in the moment. Because I want us
Mm-hmm.
to share those things first, and then I want us to discuss how we're going to dismantle some of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what is the price of being wanted or chosen? And I'll throw out some too. I'll let you start.
Yeah, sure. I guess I can start. For me, when I think of like, think that price tag, when you finally be chosen, it's almost like internal validation that you as a woman is worth it, that your worth has been reinforced, that you are actually you know someone that is of value, just because you have received that um, I guess, I guess being chosen by this male person in our life, male, whoever it is, it could be anyone, to be honest, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost validation that, we can receive love, and
Mm-hmm.
um, we are, people that, can receive love from romantic connections. And I think for me, that's just like the price that where I always thought was like, oh my gosh, if I finally, um, you know, get this man of my dreams, then I can tell everyone that like I can get a man, and there's nothing internally wrong with me as a woman. It's just, you know, um, the way that's my life had been and that trajectory. So that's what I think of
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to prices around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for me, the price is a for me, I describe that or experience that as like I've made it to like a promised land. I'm no longer the third wheel,
Mm,
fourth wheel, fifth wheel. A lot of times, sometimes I'm like the 10th wheel, because
mm,
um, I can be in a lot of settings sometimes where it's mostly couples.
right.
A part of my life is that way. Another part of my life, a lot of my friends are single, but there's another part of my life where a lot of people are coupled. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the price of like the holidays, here in the US we just went through Thanksgiving and Christmas is soon, and it's like seeing all the pictures and the gifts and the different things that you're like outcasted from in a sense. It's like no
Mm-hmm.
one's looking for the picture of the single person on Christmas cards and stuff like that. And I've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
that. I've been that person. I've sent the singles Christmas card and things like that. But it's just like it doesn't match the aesthetic of these holidays. So that's a really heavy price of like dealing with the side effects of not having those things
Mm-hmm.
during these like milestone moments of life or holidays. um Anything we could think of, even our birthday, you have a graduation or a promotion, it's like
Yeah.
you're not receiving the, oh, my significant other surprised me with flowers or champagne and this and that. You have to figure out a way to celebrate yourself.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's actually a lot of independency that I find where, for example, I'm in this point of my life where I'm thinking, okay, should I'm starting to look at my future and what I want to do in life. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should start looking into maybe saving for a deposit for an apartment or a home. And I'll have my coworkers who have partners that are doing that in such a short period of time. And I get so like, discouraged around like, only if I had another person to kind of share those experiences and those lifestyle moments, and it'd be easier for me. And, you know, I feel like for me, it's almost like this sense of I'm always going to be a little bit behind than the rest of society, which is something I'm trying not to um, have affect my ability to see the world. Um, but it's just so interesting to me to actually, I guess, view other people's life situations, and they're like, oh, it is so much easier for them to accomplish that milestone because they have that significant partner that provide that sort of support to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would love the listeners in the chat to join us in this conversation. Like, let us know what is the price of being wanted or chosen. Like, how does desiring those things become expensive. It becomes a
Mm.
burden to like always, it's hard to like be in these different settings. You mentioned like coworkers. I've been going through a health and coaching class, like going through school, and you
Mm-hmm.
can see the differences in how people that are partnered and have kids are treated differently. And I can imagine if we have someone on, do you have kids? I didn't want to
No,
assume. Okay.
no, I don't have
Um,
kids. Yeah.
some people, single but have kids, they notice a different treatment as well, I imagine, versus like the couple, the people that are in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
partnership and also have kids, they get priority for various things. You just see the different treatment. I was on a call and the we were on a group coaching call, and she was like, did you want to go first because you have your baby nearby? Like what if I wanted to go first because I got to go to the bathroom soon or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, she didn't make it a overall who would like to go first. It was assumed that the person that had a child should go first. And
Mm-hmm.
so these are the prices that come with that. I do want us to shift into dismantling the desire to be chosen, which was the title of my Substack that was inspired by your Substack piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my piece, I discussed how I recognized that I I want partnership to lessen my load of responsibilities. I have decision fatigue.
Yeah.
I have touch deprivation. All these
Mm-hmm.
different things. Like the list can go on and on. When you don't interact with people often, especially someone on a very close, intimate relationship, these
Mm-hmm.
things start to weigh down on you. And I recognized, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I need to dismantle this. I've been wanting to be chosen since like probably elementary school. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
Third, fourth, fifth
yeah.
grade. I wanted to be the girl that was liked, and it continued and
Mm.
it continued. And it's never been achieved. It's never been achieved. So I was like, what do I really want? I had to ask myself, what do I really want? And I recognize in this time of my life, it's really health.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to
Yeah.
create ease in my life. So that's one way that I'm dismantling my desire to be chosen, is like, how can I create ease in my life without relying on another person to do it, or even relying on me to do it? Can I
Yeah.
source it out? Can I source it? Can I pay for something? I picked an apartment. Well, I didn't know they had it, but like I just take my trash to the front door. Like that
Mm-hmm.
helps. I don't have to take my trash all the way to the dumpster. So, what are
Yeah.
some ways that you're realizing that you can dismantle this desire to be chosen?
I think the first thing is recognizing um, that, oh gosh, the patterns that I'm having are actually maybe a little bit problematic. And also, I find for me, it's also just my my sense, or I guess my needs in terms of romantic needs, when I think about them, weren't actually because I no nobody was loving me. Nobody could show me that they don't love. It wasn't because I was trying to chase that love. It was more because I actually was just bored, and I had this sort of um romantic social expectation that, and I guess fantasy, to be honest. I have water placements, so I'm all about love and like princess. Growing up, I've always wanted to be like the princess, and that gets chosen by the prince, and really, like, I fell in love with just these fantasies about the girl that gets chosen. And like, similarly to you, where in high school, where I was a little bit awkward and you know didn't really like the way that I looked, I always just wanted to be the popular girl, and I would try to actually copy her mannerisms, because I'm like, she's cool and everybody likes her, and all the guys, want to be with her. So I have to look like this white, blonde, blue-eyed woman that is
Mhm.
so unachievable for me as a black woman. So it's like really just like being aware about the I guess your internal experiences and how they've shaped you. But also for me, it's also reading, and also really going to a lot to therapy to kind of like
Mhm.
kickstart your healing journey. But one thing that I've actually found was that I in my dating experiences, I would always be infatuated by the thought of, dating and wanting to be on dates. And I would think about dates all the time. I'd think about the guys that are messaging me. I would be obsessed with, like, you know, trying to figure out how to respond to a message, trying to decipher what this message mean. I was just like, my head was so clouded in like men, 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 men. And I realized that, like, hang on, there is things outside of men that I could be enjoying, and I
Mhm.
can show the love that I'm trying to chase in other people in my life right now. So being with my friends, my family is probably the most important thing for me right now. I really try to focus on those relationships that have always been there for me, sustained me. I could be halfway across the world, and my friend who is in Canada is checking up on me to see if I'm okay. So it's
Mhm.
really just prioritizing those relationships and dismantling that this idea of love can only be achieved
Mhm.
through relationships or romantic partnerships. And
Yeah.
showing love to my community members and my family is
Mhm.
just also a different way that I can receive and show that love as well.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was something was clicking for me. I actually thought about my grandmother who recently passed that I shared
Mhm.
with you.
Yeah.
And she told me that we talked all the time. And she
Hmm.
told me that I am recently, this was within the past 2 or 3 months before she started to decline. And she told me
Hmm.
that I am the happiest now than I will ever be. She said no relationship, no romantic relationship or having a child is going to make me like happier than my present moment where I'm able to like,
Yeah.
get up and go and travel and things like that. And that means a
Hmm.
lot coming from a woman that did both of those things.
Hmm.
Um, and what I was thinking of is you were saying like your friends reach out to you, you have a strong community and things like that. Once you're in a partnership, I recognize that those things may lessen because of a perceived assumption that you're okay. I don't
Hmm.
need to check in as
Hmm.
much with the partnered person. And I even,
Hmm.
as I say this, reflect on myself on like I kind of naturally check in more with the friends that I know that are single and live alone than the ones that are partnered. And that's a bit unfair, but it's kind of just a natural kind of assumption like, I don't,
Hmm.
and also like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Their life
Yeah.
is full with their partnership and their children. I don't want to bother them, but they need to be, checked on
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
but it kind of, and I think that's kind of why my grandmother told me that as well. Because it's like
Hmm.
once you have all those things, people kind of start assuming you're so busy and don't
Hmm.
need to be bothered with someone checking in. So
Exactly.
I can see the upside of my current life, and still, I desire to experience those things because I do agree with my grandmother when she told me
Hmm.
that. And I feel that there are some experiences that are unlike another experience. It's not that one is better than another, because
Yeah.
I imagine I
Yeah.
will reflect and be like, I miss when it was quiet and I was in
Yeah.
my own
Exactly.
space and all that. But then there's joys that I've never experienced that is going to be a different type of joy.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah. And I
It's
wanted to read the comments real quick too before we move on. Jessica says, like you all said, it's hard during the holidays having to pay for so many family members by yourself, like, holding that responsibilities of any holidays, when we do birthday parties. Oh my gosh, going to weddings by yourself and you
mm,
have to get like the wedding gift by yourself and all that. It's a lot. And it's like couples get to split that. People aren't expecting both of them to
by
excuse me,
individual.
something's in my
Yeah.
eye. But yeah, by individual. And we have to do it individually. And then Nat says, great talk. There's a mental burden that can come up in happy moments, and um, you're reminded this achievement is awesome, but you're still alone. Like when we accomplish things, it's like, but I'm still alone. And then also, what makes me feel better is seeing the lives of a lot of partnered women who have settled, or they go have their own struggles.
Hmm.
You know, there's still hope. Like when things don't work out for us as single people, that means we can still meet someone that is going to be more of the full package of what you desire.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, I had a thought, sorry, and it just went away. But it was actually interesting when you were talking about how, partnered women tend to have this perception that they are full of joy just because they are in this relationship. And it actually just reminded me also that, it's also interesting for me, that I've noticed in my circles of friendships and people that I've been around with that have got partners, how sometimes their ability to show up in a friendship can be a little bit different than what it was when they were all single, and when you guys all were all single together. And it's always interesting to me, is it how once we've achieved or have a partner, that how I also want to show up to my friendships, and I get very, like, I guess, conscious about that, like how I will present as a person that is in a partnership, and as a person that is also valuing these friendships with my friends. And I guess it's just like a natural progression, where a lot of people, when they are in partnerships, they just end up, you know, merging their lives with their partner, and that becomes their life, and you start to see how things may shift. And I guess it's hard for me to say, because obviously I'm not one, but I've always just been one of that person that is just a little bit conscious of how I also show up to my friendships if I was also in a relationship as well. So I guess it's hard to determine how that would look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope the same for myself too. That I'm like, I want to always, even in partnership, be the like advocate for the like single girl, and like, I don't know,
Hmm.
just handle her with care, speaking with her, and also letting her know
Hmm.
I've been single, or I was single all the way through the whole time, like, so it just, I know people that have been in relationships at different ages, and it really depends on, it's just really the person, because
Hmm.
some people have been in relationships since they were really young, some got in a relationship later. I really think it comes down to the person, because I've seen it all. Um, And then we also have to recognize that we don't know what's in store in the future either. I've spoken
Mhm.
with older women. I highly recommend having older women friends that,
Mhm.
they went through a divorce in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and then got married, maybe, maybe not. But, that's a whole nother thing. We just
Yeah.
don't know whose time is, when each of our time is going
Exactly.
to be. And
Mhm.
I think this is kind of one of our speaking points, but something I've always thought about when we think of like the person we want to be when we're partnered. I'm like, I hope everyone supports me as much as I supported them when they were when they were going through their engagements and weddings
As
and
yeah, yeah.
relationships and all that. Cause I'm like, I've gone through like almost everything with, I've seen everything. I might not have been a part of every part of it. But you know what I mean? Like, I hope people are
Yeah.
available. And then that's also the part of me that's like, I want to make my wedding smaller, more intimate. Because at the end of the day, it just comes down to you and your partner. We can't rely on other people,
Exactly.
showing up for us, even if you
Yeah.
showed up for
Yeah.
them. So that's just something I worry, kind of worry about. Like, is everyone going to be available for me?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I always think about that too. I'm like, I guess I'm at this age in my life where, so I am one of four. So I've got two older sisters and I've got a younger brother. And my younger brother and I are only 18 months apart. And growing up, I've always just been like, I will have, it's just natural ways of order. Like the oldest, it's always the oldest that goes to the youngest. So, when he then got married at the beginning of this year, I was like, oh my gosh,
oh,
like, oh, like I just wasn't expecting you to get married. My older sisters have been married now for at least 3 years and over. So it was just one of those things where like I never had to even think about it until my younger brother got into a relationship, which I was like, he's young, he's a boy. He will like be in this relationship for a good 5 years and then they'll look into like, the natural, milestones of most relationships. And I always thought to myself, I've got time. Like, I've got time. I don't need to worry about that. And all of a sudden, he gets into a relationship, and I'm like, everything that I thought completely switched. And I've always, like, suddenly had this internal fear of the time is clocking. The time is
mhm.
ticking. I need to be serious now. This long gone are the days where I was just going out and just having fun. What is fun now?
Yeah,
So it's just interesting for me to actually see how my perceptions around a woman's body clock
yeah,
has shifted just because my immediate family, most of my immediate family have crossed over into
yeah,
that milestone, and I
yeah.
feel like now like all eyes are on me.
Mhm. Oh,
My
yeah.
my grandma will call and ask, and she'll be like, I've been praying, are you it's time for you to get a husband. And my uncle on my birthday, the first thing was like, are you talking to any guys? I'm like, not even a happy birthday. Like, it's not
Exactly.
like I
Oh, I
don't
get it.
already yeah, yeah, it's
Mhm.
just it just seems like all of a sudden society and the people around me
Mhm.
um just had these expectations all of a sudden, and I was just not prepared at the significance of that.
Yeah, yeah. My little
Mm,
brother is married as well, so I
mm,
definitely understand that. I think it's men have better
oh yeah,
choices than we do. So
yeah.
it's it's really not on us. Like, yes, we can do our own work on ourselves for ourselves. Has nothing to do with being in a relationship. That is not a requirement to be in a relationship. But I
Hmm.
don't see men on the same level as us. Like, it's just
No.
it makes it more challenging. And with that being said, I think we should pivot into the question, Is having a boyfriend embarrassing? This comes from the article in the recent Vogue UK
Mhm.
issue. What were your
Well,
thoughts on that? Did you read it? Did you read the
I
article?
did read
Okay.
I did read this article, and I was actually having a discussion with my friend, and I was like, yeah, in some ways, I sort of relate to that article where, you know, I didn't, when the guy that I was dating, nobody even knew who he was, only because I was afraid of something happening. And then people have now recognized on social media this person that I was dating. And I just didn't want, you know, men can be embarrassing sometimes. I won't lie. There are certain situations that um you know men have been embarrassing towards women, or maybe it could be um maybe their thoughts, their actions, their how they perceive their world is completely different to this friend, or the friend that we have, or mine, and I just don't want that to come back around and bite me in the ass. So it's interesting because I really loved that article, and seeing how the thoughts that I had with, just general conversations with my friends were universal. Um, but also, I also think that it is embarrassing, but sometimes you know, we have this connotations that love is wanting love is you know really weird, and it's not cool, and you should not want love, you should not want to show who you're loving, you should not, we have this negative connotation about love in general. But it's so funny to me to even think about it, because it is a human need. Like, we as societies, we need to have love reciprocated in whatever form that is. So it's funny when people are like, oh, boyfriends, they're so embarrassing. But I'm also, at deep down, I'm like, but is it really embarrassing, or is it more the fact that we as a society don't want to show that, like, we also crave and value someone's love and attention?
Yeah. That article, to be honest, I read it, but I feel like I wasn't focused enough or something.
Hmm.
And it's like I get it. I do get it.
Hmm.
I'm also just a person that like to play devil's advocate and like but it's like
Yeah.
I think we're in a world where, well, a lot of culture and media, it's a lot of toxic positivity. And so like the same people, and I'm not saying this about the author of the
Hmm.
article, but we will see a trend of people saying what not to desire, but in the same time they have it. They either already
Yeah.
have it or they're on the way to having it. And then you look up and they're married and you've agreed to this trend or whatever, and
Hmm.
you're alone and they've
Yeah.
gone on. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I actually this year decreased my intake of dating, media, TikToks, YouTube, podcasts. I decreased it this year because I couldn't decipher which were my thoughts and views and what was the views of others.
Hmm.
So that's where I think I was kind of like, it was hard for me to really take in that article.
Hmm.
For those that just joined, now we're discussing, is it embarrassing to have a boyfriend? Is having a
Hmm.
boyfriend embarrassing? I would love for you all, the listeners in the comments, to put that answer. Did you read it? Even if you didn't read it, is that a yes or no for you? But yeah, so I think it was hard for me to like really, I understood, but to like really read and
Hmm.
comprehend everything because I've been decreasing my intake on things on that topic.
And
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with your intake, where I find just the way that social media has now been built and the way that articles, information are released and trend, we tend to have this sort of like um, we tend to cling onto things that are trending or very popular, whether or not it could be as relatable to ourselves or not, which is why I was like, I could understand some aspects of it, but then I always feel that like we I guess it's almost like we try to really predict that, oh, being a single person is so good, it's so rewarding, it is. We try to have this weird sort of like connotation, I guess, in almost like what you were saying, where it's like toxic positivity, where like don't worry about that. You don't need a man. You don't need a relationship. You have life to the fullest. You are single and you can be so great just because you're single, which is great in some aspects, but it actually in other ways can also be detrimental to also us wanting to then connect with other people, because I'm like, well, now I am not in that community of single women, and I had been participating around this trope and these ideas, and now if I want to go back to my boyfriend, I don't want to talk about that, because now it's a little bit um counterintuitive and counterproductive to what my ideas were. So yeah, it was interesting to read that, and I could understand some aspects of it, but I also felt like I to the true core, yes, being single is great, but then also so is just being in a relationship, and there are positives and negatives with both of them,
Both.
and that is okay.
Yeah, that is okay. So I'm looking at our time. I feel that we've touched on pretty much everything, or like a little bit of everything,
Mhm.
except for the last question, which we definitely will discuss. Our last question. I want to pass it to you if there's something on the list that you like definitely wanted to like discuss tonight that we haven't touched on. Uh-oh, I don't know if I got frozen. Yeah, Sha.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, now I
Hello.
can see you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. So I was actually trying to get the question on my phone, and then I realized if
Oh.
I open up Instagram, it actually freezes
It's
me.
it's okay. Do you remember which one? I have them in front of me.
Okay,
Um,
what I'll do is um
so well, one we haven't discussed is, do we stop dating and let it find us, or does not dating keep us from being found? That was one
I
that I
think
had threw out there.
mhm. Let's do that one, because I actually have a interesting sort of thought around that. I feel like sometimes like what you've mentioned before, where this toxic positivity of like, you know we say to our single friends, you find the person that you want when you're not looking. You cannot be looking. You just need to go out in the world and do
Mm-hmm.
your hobbies and experience life and not be looking. But then also it's very difficult because, you know, I am also a person. I also have thoughts, and I can't sometimes, help that. If I am going to the shops and there's a couple that is shopping, I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Or there's an old couple that are walking together, and I'm like, oh, that's so cute. I want that. I cannot help to, think those thoughts. But also, my sort of connotations around it is I don't want to focus heavily on this idea of finding love, because maybe for me, where I get obsessive, I can get quite obsessive with this, idea of like always consistently wanting to talk about my dates, my men, like men, and how much I hate men, and like it's my train of focus is always just like the men in my life, and I want to have other conversations that aren't surrounded about I'm dating, who I'm not dating, why I feel pressured to date. So I have been trying to um, do more things with my like hobbies, and write more, and do a lot more crafts, and just do things that take up my time, so I don't have to feel like I'm always available to date and find love, because that's something I was doing previously, where
Yeah,
I'll just work Monday to Friday, and then Friday nights, Saturday nights, I'm opening them up for potential dates. And
yeah.
that was my life. That was what resonated with me at that point. And I think, finding interests outside of dating is also very important at your identity, and how you see yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to know from our listeners in the chat if you can let us know, are you dating right now? Like, are you dating? Are you taking a break? How do you date? Um, I think we'll go into now how we want to date in the new year, going into 2026. Um, how we want to date. What are you going to keep the same? What are you going to change? You just mentioned like
Mm,
hobbies, like not basically not canceling your hobbies or things you already had in place to take a date. They need to
mm-hmm.
fit into your schedule because once we start moving our stuff around, you're going to always be like moving your stuff
Available.
around. They need
Mm-hmm.
to go, oh, you're not available Friday. What's Saturday look like? Like make it fit into your schedule. Keep
Exactly.
your life full. For me in 26, I definitely I do both dating apps and in real life. I do want to do more in real life, like meeting people in real life. Right now, I go out once a week. It's something I've been doing since the summer. It's been my commitment to myself to get out in different settings. But here's the thing, most of those settings happen to be mostly women because the truth of the matter is more women go to events than men. So what does
Yeah.
that mean? I need to go to some spaces where I know men are going to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for sure, unfortunately, one of those spaces is like the bar, especially when there's games. One space is like the gym, even though I'm not crazy about the gym. Sports events, I need to start like figuring out a way to show up to more sports events. And then I want to start showing up to more cultural, diverse type of events and not like the same like kind of culture or things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So how about you? How will you be dating in 2026?
I think mainly for me is I want to be the person that, is so sure of themselves. And um, like I mentioned before, I have a tendency of just being available, or too available sometimes. And um, I usually, most of my dating experiences have been through apps, to be honest. So it's actually funny because I was talking to another friend recently. I'm like, oh my gosh, most of the guys that I don't want are on the apps, and the guys that I do want are, just they're never gonna be on the apps. And I want to meet people organically, but the reality of that is that I'm actually a little bit scared of chatting to a guy. That is so to me, that is just like I can never initiate that first, conversation. I'm always a little bit like, no, they have to come and speak to me first, and then, but like, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's a little bit harder, um for women to be open to willingly speak to a guy in person. And I think the main thing in Australia, I say Australia, and preface Australia because um, men in Australia, this I don't want to generalize, but a lot of my Australian friends would understand that um, the dating culture is so different than the dating culture in America, and I've actually seen this myself, where in Australia, men are they have this like pack mentality where they don't it's not cool to go up to a girl or try to chat her up. They're very like hush hush around like love and approaching another person that they're interested in. So for me it's always just been one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I've ever been approached in person in Australia, only because like that's just the reality of it. Whereas when I've been to New York, for example, like I was talking to you, where as soon as I landed I was like, oh my gosh, guys are just, I'm actually not ugly. Guys are actually just approaching me and like even just, saying, oh, you're so beautiful, miss. And I'm like, that is not something that I am have experienced living in Australia. So I've always wanted to approach men in person, but I guess I have that fear of like rejection, and also the fear that like potentially this person in the society that we live in an Australian society, is obviously not going to validate that. And for me, I would love to just one time approach a person. That's a working in progress. But I
Okay.
guess for me in 2026, now I'm rambling on. I just want to be less available to men and really focus on just
Hmm.
the way that I present in my sort of social society and community and friends. And if their schedule fits in my schedule, it's fine, but I don't want to always having to accommodate
Yeah.
to them.
Yes. Thank you for sharing with us how the dating culture is there in Australia. I will say New York is very different than, of course, each region is different.
Hmm.
They're a bit more vocal in New York. Um, Australia, like that culture, dating culture, sounds similar to how a lot of guys are starting to act like. I
Hmm.
would say pre-COVID and pre the Me Too movement, guys were more approach women more. But
Hmm.
then, are you familiar with the Me Too movement? I
Yeah.
don't know if okay, I don't know if it was everywhere, but yeah. So I just feel like they're a little more reserved, and then COVID, made people a little more like keep your distance. But I will say it sounds like one of your goals for 26 is to also like try on, right? Try on approaching
Hmm.
a guy. And it's not exactly approaching, it's dropping your handkerchief. So
I love
back in
that.
the day, yeah, I learned this from one
Oops.
of my you said, well, yeah, I love it. I learned it from one of my favorite relationship podcasters, Latarius R. Whitfield. He does the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and he talks about that. You have to make it known that you're available and single, and that's what women used to do. They drop their handkerchief,
Hmm.
and the man would pick it up. But the thing we need to happen around the world is for men to pick it up. A lot of
Yeah.
them are still like there's a disconnect of even
Yeah.
like clicking, oh, she's available, she's single, she's interested. That's
Hmm.
what's not clicking. So if there are any men listening, this will be added to YouTube, so we don't know who will watch it later. But you got to work on your game of
Yeah.
picking up, and we can go on and on around why that is. I think a lot has to do with the older men in their lives. Do they even have older men in their lives? What are those older men or older brothers, whomever, um, teaching them and showing them about courting a woman? I can't remember the
Mhm.
last time I've been courted or heard a girlfriend say, I'm being courted. That is almost like
Mhm.
non existent.
It's so,
And
yeah,
it's,
unheard of.
yeah, it's very scary. So yeah, I do want to open it up to our listeners. We're going to be closing out the conversation here shortly. Does anyone want to come on and ask any questions or add to the conversation? You can either come on with your camera off, we could just hear your voice, or you can drop something in the chat if you have a question or you want to add to this conversation. Um, let's see. And yeah, I look forward to the new year because I feel like this year I was reading something that like this was the year of the snake or something like that, and basically a lot of releasing, a lot of endings, a lot of things like that. That's been the topic for this year. But
Mm.
n- next year 2026 is the year of, I can't remember what they said, but it's like more like new beginnings. I'm sure we're going to see a change with dating apps, either some new apps coming out or they're just going to look different. I feel like we're going to see men, I mean, we're all getting older and it's like you can't play the video games at home forever. Like you gotta like get out if you want to
Yeah.
like start a family, do those things. So I
Mm.
do feel like in 2026 we are going to see some new trends. Yeah, yeah. Now we have in the comments, Nat said she's not dating, more focused on feeling more achieved. And we got some good feedback around the conversation tonight. As we wrap up, do you want to share with the listeners how they can stay connected with you?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Instagram, which is at love with love Nyasha. And I'm sure you can probably click on my profile somewhere there and it'll direct you to my Instagram. But I have been writing a lot more. So if you're interested in, I guess, my thoughts and thought processes around just love and, you know, everything around love. You can also find me on Substack, also at with Love Nyasha. And yeah, I am so excited. I'm so thankful that the internet has brought us here. We've already spoken, and um, I always wish that the love that people show to other people will always return to themselves. So I'm sure, you know, someone out there is waiting for us.
They are. They are.
Hmm.
Someone just told me that I can't remember who, but I saw somewhere and I was talking to someone. They mentioned the thing of like the fact that we've made friends. Like when you reflect on the relationships that you currently have in your life, how like either magical it was that you bumped into your friend at an event, or and now y'all are friends, or however you meet people at work, what have you,
Hmm.
that it's possible there's still magic out there to meet
There is.
romantic love. And I
Yeah.
also wanted you to know that you are a Disney princess. You literally look like a Disney, you
Oh,
literally look
stop
like a
it
Disney
now.
princess. I'm like, so I think it's funny that you wanted to be a Disney princess. I wanted to be the 80s movie girl. So Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, basically Molly Ringwald.
Yeah, yeah.
Molly
Oh
with
god.
the red hair, yes.
Oh
So
yeah.
like it's funny that when you kind of take a step back, we are those things and we're still becoming. We're still
Hmm.
becoming and
Yeah.
just continue to visualize, and if those that believe in like prayer, all those
Mm-hmm.
things, that you're still becoming into those things,
Absolutely.
because there are things that we've accomplished that some partner people haven't. So meanwhile, we're desiring partnership. They're looking at us like, I wonder how it would be to start a Substack, to do an Instagram
Yeah.
live, to whatever
Yeah.
other accomplishments. Some people have never, lived on their own, or go to a concert by
Mm-hmm.
themselves, or the various things we've accomplished. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to
Yeah.
remember that somebody's looking back at us as well, admiring
Yeah.
things about us. Yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you hit that on the nail too. So
Yes.
that was such a good reminder that sometimes it's so hard for us to see that what we've achieved is also somebody else's dream.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's always, humble, be humble and gentle with ourselves, and a good reminder to do so.
Yes. Well, thank you so much
Thanks,
for being
Janelle.
my fifth guest. Well,
That's so
I've
exciting.
had multiple guests on. I've had five shows. This is my fifth show, but some
Oh
had
wow.
panels, so it's been a couple guests. But this
Mhm.
is being my fifth episode of Community Conversations. Thank you so much.
My
And
pleasure as always.
we will of course stay in touch, and I'm excited to see what the new year holds for us.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're ever down in Australia, you now have a free tour guide.
Yay, thank you. Like I told you, I've always wanted to come there, and honestly,
Mhm.
I feel like this is divine alignment for me to work on that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. Thanks
thank
so much, and
you.
I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. Thanks all for watching tonight, and no matter where you are in the world, because we're global now, but this will be saved to YouTube. So definitely follow my YouTube as well. And I hope you all have a good night.